All right. So I'm Khalid. In this session, I'm planning to walk through the agentic orchestration, the state of the state, the current state where it stands today, and the key challenges we were facing, and what has been working, what still has not. And I will introduce Fastn UCL, Universal Command Layer. That's our opinion of how multi-tenant AI agents should connect to tools across different customers, different teams, different orgs, and environments. So we believe this approach represents the future of agentic orchestration. This is our opinion, but would love to hear people's feedback on it at the end. A bit about me, I'm live in Austin, Texas. I've been in the building middleware and integration for the past 12 years. Started my Amazon and journey in Amazon and AWS, and moved as a VP of engineering and some other companies. What I realized, like, building integration has been a challenge, has been a problem. And as the industry evolved, from back in the days where there were monolithic application and then the client server, and then they went to a microservices. And now we are noticing a shift to composability, a plug and play, type of architecture where, it's from microservice to nano services, where you're going to end up to have agents, APIs, will increase more siloed data. The more silo, the more fragmented system, the orchestration, the integration becomes a big problem, a big bottleneck. And that's where, I quit to build fast in 2023 to try to solve how to make it easy for applications to really orchestrate and get fragmented data. We started on 2023. We landed HP as one of our customers to use it. We solved a huge problem. And when MCP came in, and part of solving our problem for integration orchestration, we tried to build AI agents. And when we tried to build AI agents, those agents required to make more actions to interact with data. So, and I'll talk later in the slides a little bit more how we solved that, what the challenge we were coming across, and how did we solve it back then. And yeah, after trying out a couple of times to build it on our own, we came up with our solution. MCP came in. We sound like, does MCP help us replace it, or what we do, or it help us to be more effective? And it was a great, actually, because it came up with a great standard. Right now, it makes it easy for other people to connect to tools with AI agents. So that really helped us to move really faster. So it's a great standard, but, there's a lot of things in the infrastructure that needed to really enable us to have our multi-tenant AI agents production ready and enterprise grade. So the quick snippet, what we're going to look to cover in this session, the current state, what the problems we were facing, and how, what did we think the needs, to solve them, introduce Fastn UCL, and how it makes, MCP and, like, extend it to be an enterprise grade and work for a multi-tenant environment that works across team, across orgs, across customers. And we'll do a quick overview of the UCL architecture, and we'll have a quick demo in how Fastn UCL can be embedded and be used with multi-tenant AI agents. So the current state, when we started with MCP, when we build a multi-tenant agents, it's the authentication doesn't happen from the end. Like, our agent activate if the end user authorize different tools. So, and that's where we needed OAuth, a federated OAuth from the end user. So that was a challenge, like there wasn't no standardized, way when we started trying MCP. We didn't have an OAuth. There are different tenants. We didn't know how to isolate them with the different tenants unless we have to have a different server or add more challenges in there. And also, the MCP server could have a broad permission. There is no isolations, across the different tenants who needs to access the different tools. And we try to, and the second issue we came across, like scalability, that using tools that you didn't really need, that have a big tool token size, token windows, a lot of descriptions, it could get really expensive. What we started notice after using 10 different tools, and our context window start maxing out and it start failing, and we needed to optimize how it can support 50, 100 different types of tools, because we have a diverse teams using it, diverse customers, different customers, they need to connect a different tool for that multi-tenant AI agents to really work for them. The other thing, having to manage multiple, the multiple different connections, the overhead for the different server, there were a connection overhead. And as you guys know, there is also the prompt injection or the prompt poisoning, where people could, if you didn't have to process it through a gateway, it's easy to gain an access that you didn't need to. So and then after that, like, that's where, like, who accessed what, how much they used it, how many token did it, how long did the different tools take, which ones failed, which one worked, uh, who processed what and when. Those becomes a lot of questions we didn't really know. We didn't have any audit, to ensure. And we are SOC 2, GDPR, HIPAA compliance. So that's really important for us to really understand, it's like what goes through what type of PII data or HIPAA data that end up to go through the system. And that's, where it's like, what we still need to continue to maintain a gateway to help keep a check what goes through those different tools, and be able to understand what's going on and who's supposed to do what and when, who it works for whom and who it fails for whom. And last thing is maintainability. When working in an enterprise environment, MCP server, you build it, you connect it, you have an open API specs. That open API specs, it changes so often. When it changes now, I need to recompile my MCP server to pick up the new specs and have to end up to maintain that. That becomes a really challenging where things are working. It's just reminded me of the analogy of API versus library. When you distribute like a library, then you have to update it every time there is an update, where it could get a challenging, versus an API, you can get the updates automatically. So, and also there is a nature of a lot of customer data in the enterprise are flexible attributes. It's not a specific schema. It could change dynamically per multiple different contexts. How do you end up to federate it? So, and that's where we needed to figure out like the flexible schema to figure things out. Managing each server has been a nightmare. When something is break, it was hard to figure out. So it's just didn't enable us to take it to the production state, but help us to, from the MCP clients to really connect. And that's where we continue to evolve our MCP server to handle it. So what I believe was needed, like for the security and to end up to solve it, OAuth need an RPAC policies, and have a fine-grained permissions for a tool, for a specific agent, for a specific user, a specific then, and then have a better identity management that could scale across the different organizations, because different teams, they have a different needs, different tools, different permissions, even if it's the same AI agents. That has to be multi-tenant. Scalability, right now it's statically load. Like when you have, let's say, connect to an MCP server that have 50, 100 tools, it will load all of them, but instead you need to load what you really care about for that specific agent. And also, even if you have a lot of tools you need to load, you didn't have to always send all of them to the context. I need to figure out intelligently what's really important to send, what is not, that you really care about within that specific context window. And how do you have an awareness of a tenant? If you have a customer using Slack for notification, it's multi-tenant. Somebody else using Meet, someone using Google Calendar, somebody else in Outlook. How to have that type of context where it can be smart to be interoperable across different environment tools and customers. And observability, action tracking, what each specific action that agent execute, and what compliance data, what is the usage, what is the cost that it could introduce, what could be even optimized, not even at the tool level, into which type of data within that specific tool, which specific attributes it needs to have. And the states within maintainability, like as schema flexibility, how do you have feature schema dynamically? Like there is a standard for Open API, GraphQL, gRPCs, and those legacy old ways. How to dynamically update to fetch those in your MCP server or in your federated? We have another way, like to to help that to be more dynamic than statically built, and we're in that to move it to be a gateway. Another thing, like if I have 100 tools, I need to really manage 100 servers? What can I do to really provision, manage, reconcile, or even abstract that to a single gateway that have that same MCP server functionality in the fly from the same MCP client that's connecting to it? So cool. Here is what I believe we think about it. MCP is a great standard, is a great interface, but like it's like a laptop. You have a single. It's a great USB-C hub, but in your laptop you have limited hubs. You can't use it a lot. See, the actual production environment, it's complex. They need a lot of connection. That's what you need a hub. That's what you need the gateway. Hub is the infrastructure for you. So that's where we introduced Fastn UCL, enterprise-grade multi-tenant MCP gateway. For the AI agents to try to solve that. So the first thing what we have, multi-tenant, having different customers using different tools, different environment. What we think about multi-tenants, your AI agents needs an app store for the different tenants to connect the tool they care about. When they connect through the tool, your agents will work directly with them without any changes, without any additional hard coding to plug in additional tools. You plug into Fastn UCL, and then it will help you to connect to whatever tool the customer choosing from that app store. Embedded, like if you take a look at it right now, the next level of agents, not just informational, they are actionable. If it's an internal ITs, like a lot of those tools, MCP Cloud, they will do it really well. But when you end up to want to connect to the customer tools or the user tools, you need to embed it to your AI agents. So like it has a prerequisite for your AI agents to work to connect to some specific tools categories. Like let's say if you have an executive assistant needs to connect to a specific email, notification, calendar. Observability, you're gonna have an insights to know how many tenants connected to it, how many apps they end up to connect, which one's working, which one's failing, what are the latency for tools, what is the token sizes or the sizes each different tools using, and what are the tab used, what are the tab failing. And finally, scalable, with a single MCP can connect to thousands of tools, 1,000 plus, and you then need to redeploy your MCP server. All what you need, just a simple way, go enable what needs to be enabled, and it will work and get the job done. Quick overview of the high-level architecture here. In MCP, like there's a client that connects to a server, but in the Fastn UCL, there's a lot of you need the tenant context, you need the policies and the privacies, the governance, you need the role-based in this layer, and identity and auth management. You need to have an exposed different ways to connect, even from a curl command. From your terminal, you can make a single curl command where you can access it not only from desktop, it could be from web, from APIs, from legacy applications, from different places to make it easily accessible, to bring that intelligence and bring in the bridge between the legacy systems that existed out there. They might not have an MCP servers to be able connected from AI agents through MCP servers. And now we'll jump to a quick walkthrough for Fastn. Let me share that for my whole desktop. Awesome. So let me see, is my screen show? Yep, perfect. So when you come to log into Fastn, it looks like this. You're going to have multiple different workspaces you need to enable. I'm going to choose the workspace. And here I have a lot of different tools that I can enable. All what I need, I just go ahead and enable it. Once I enable it, I can use to test, with it if I enable with my test account. Or I can go to this preview. This preview, what it looks like. Usually you have AI agents, they look like this. But you need them to be smart, where you need to connect. If I'm building an executive assistant, it needs to access my email, my Notion, my Google Calendar. Any tool you enable it from there, it will show up dynamically. This is the end user. And it will see what specific tools, like it's like I didn't have to enable everything under Slack. It can be a very specific tools. And this is for more of a testing purpose, but this is usually going to come from your actual user who signed in under the hood and authorized with your own system. when I come enable those different things, I should be able to interact with it. If I see in here, I connected Slack and I connected Gmail, I can start chatting with it and it will work. Or if I go to a different tenant, that this tenant have not connected, they didn't have any connection. If I ask it the same message, send a Slack message in here, it will not work compared to in here, like send Summit to demo. Yep, and you can have this to be dynamic or not. Like now, I send it. If I go to yep, hi from MCP Summit, I can ask it, go summarize my email and send it to here. Go create a calendar invite. Anything I can ask it, it will work for it. But if I go to the other test account, I didn't have anything authenticated. Maybe I need to authenticate my Slack the way I authenticate it. It's just you're gonna have an OAuth within this to go choose, which Slack account and be able to choose. Now I'm going to be able to authorize. Now, if it's authorized, it can work for that tenant. From a demo perspective, you usually work with one tenant at the time because for your end users. But yeah, that's how it looks like. This is a quick preview from a testing. But if you want to try it out, we have an open source, this embedded multi-tenant AI assistant. It's similar as any AI agents that's multi-tenant. You go ahead, you run it, and you install the dependencies. Actually, before I run it, I might need to configure a few things. That's how I go to my workspace, we will get to the dashboard. I need to integrate. I need the space ID here. So go to the environment file. It said I need the space ID. I'm gonna have open API. C and also the MCP server. Actually, maybe before I put this one, we could also see how it looks before and after. Yeah, so it looks before like this. That's a normal assistant. It's a demo AI agents. You can have it. But once you end up to embed Fastn UCL, I can just go ahead. We have a snippet of a code after you add your space IDs. And then I'm just going to go ahead and uncomment this. There is a specific code that you need to, from the repository follow, like to embed that container. And now if you see, I have this container inside my own AI agents, and it will work the same way as the preview. The preview is just for testing purposes. So am I doing on time?
You're doing great. Got a couple more minutes.
Awesome. All right, cool. So yeah, and just to go a little bit more details to explain that, when you take a look at it in the multi-tenant, you have your own auth. And here I said, like, this is the user ID, but ideally in your application, they're gonna come dynamic. I'm gonna say customer one. That demo auth token, it works just for the sake of demo, but in a real environment, you need to configure this to be a real authenticated demo for each tenant. And this can be federated through Fastn, like if you are using Okta or any system to federate logging, for your normal user, your normal application, you can have that federation where it will pass, make sure it's the same exact tenant really authorized, it's not someone else. And when you do it and configure those, you should be able to, let's say if I run the application, and I'm gonna go back to here. If you see in here, it said this the different customer one that needs to connect to it, and it could work the same way. If I go to back after, what happens now, I need to understand which tools I'm doing, which tenants, and in this way, like I have a test tenant, that's a different tenant ID. It will start said I have two different tenants, a few different apps, and those are the one I used. I use Slack and Gmail, and the average latency is 10 milliseconds per tool. We have a concept, that's what's coming. It's like you can have a workflow more than just a tool. You can execute a whole workflow for a logic, and this tells you what is the connections, if users fielding connections, what is the success rate, and you should be able to see when is the first execution, get more details, more insights, and even if you want to see what each tool executed, what was sent data inside it, what got responded to from the under the hood, the actual request, you can end up to be able to see that and be able to debug them.
That's awesome. Khalid, thank you so much for walking us through Fastn.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I would love to understand a little bit more just about the journey you've been on. So it's a company, it's a startup. When did you start the company?
The company started in 2023.
Okay.
And probably have a bit more slide after that. It's like we started in 2023. We have a bunch of customers, bunch of users. Where we featured and backed also by well-funded VCs and also prominent, co-founder Nasify and co-founder of Loop.
Do you so at this point, how big is the team? Is the product available? Like, is it already? I mean, it sounds like you've got a customer, so I assume I can go to the website and sign up and subscribe, or it's a SaaS that I would subscribe to? Is it software I would download? Like, what's the experience for someone who wants to try this?
Yeah, it's a SaaS you could try, and you could also, we have a version that's deployed inside private clouds, for enterprises, from data privacy. We have both of those version. We have a free tier exposed minimal version of this one in beta. Anyone can access, through public, or if they go through this URL, we can give them a pro account for 6 months for free to try it out. And until we figure out what is the right pricing. But for now, you could have 10,000 requests a month for starting at 29, but you also have a free tier, that's that you could use it for personal project for long.
So you mentioned HP a couple of times. They're a user, a customer. What are they doing with it? Like, I'm trying to understand the value proposition to an enterprise kind of. Are they implementing it for a single specific application or an app? What are they doing with it?
Yeah, so when you have needed to implement an integration hub or integration store, the integration hub, which is if we would go to I don't know, I could probably show that. So the integration hub, what it looks like really, if this is the app store, when you have a SaaS product, that's how we were enabling your SaaS product to have this integration store embedded. But now within Fastn UCL is specific, it's specific for AI agent. You need your specific AI agents. It needs a specific app store in order for it to work. If you are building a multi-tenant AI agent, that you deploy different users that have to authorize their way, then you need to embed this app store.
So let me see if I got this right. Then let's say I'm HP and I want to build a support app for my customers, and I want them to be able to kind of come into that agent, and then there might be 7 or 8 different tools inside of the HP support universe. I could add this Fastn UCL to the agent, and then they could curate a list of integrations and connections that they want the agent to be able to access. Now, are these currently MCPs, or are they things something you've built and you're moving it to MCP?
Yeah, we support like the same thing. You can have an MCP server and transitioning it to an app or a connector, or you can build the app and connector out of generated from open API schema from the end state where it end up to operate in the same way. But for example, we'll give you a good, if you have an executive assistant, an order agent, that executive assistant, if you give it to someone, it have to connect to your own calendar. It have to connect to your Google Meets and Slack. So in order for it to be really operational, you need to connect your own tool. When I build and get that AI agents multi-tenant to be spun up, it's not going to work because it have a direct connection. Now it's going to have a federated connection using OAuth for you to work for you. The same thing when you build a multi-tenant AI agents, you need a different teams to have a different type of access, different type of authorization, or a different customers or a different users. That's where this is Fastn is really helpful. But if you're building to access specific internal tools, they are not dynamic, they didn't change per org, per team, per context, then while this can help, but that's not our biggest value prop.
Okay, great. Darren, any questions that you have?
No, this looks great.
All right. Well, thank you, Khalid. Thank you, Liad. Thank you, Ido, for coming today and presenting. This was a lot of fun. Great demos, and we will be back next week with 3 presentations next week. So thank you, guys. We're going to break these up and post them all to the YouTube channel, and they should be live in the next day.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us, and have a wonderful Thursday.
Thanks.